from the forward.
Dragon SpaceX nominal nose cone opening and forward bulkhead Draco checkouts.
SpaceX Dragon copies and confirm nominal E-course activation and go for visors.
And there we heard confirmation that the nose cone has fully deployed and that the crew is now able to lift their visors. And there again, we're seeing some views inside the Dragon Endurance spacecraft with Crew 10 on their way to the International Space Station.
Affirm, you are go to open visors.
Copy.
Great calls there. They're go to open visors, which means that shortly they'll also be able to get out of their suits and get comfortable for the entire ride on Dragon to the International Space Station.
And from left to right on your screen, there's Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov, NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers, NASA astronaut Ian McLean, and then far on the right-hand side of your screen is JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi.
And there you could see that they are in microgravity as their tablets are floating around there. They do have them attached to a little string that helps allow them so that, you know, as they're strapped into their seats, they don't lose their tablets.
We're now just over 20 minutes into today's flight following that successful liftoff at 7:03 p.m. Eastern, 4:03 p.m. Pacific. There you're getting an over-the-shoulder view between the commander and pilot, so Ian McLean and Nicole Ayers.
If you're just now joining us, you are watching live Crew 10 out in space in the Dragon vehicle. They lifted off from Space Launch Complex 39A at 7:03 p.m. Eastern Time.
Dragon SpaceX, there are about 3 minutes remaining in the current ground station pass. At this time, you're welcome to introduce your zero-G indicator. We're using the full crew cam so we can see all 4 crew members right now.
All right, copies. Thank you, SpaceX. We'd like to introduce the Crew 10 G indicator. Takuya is holding him up. This is a hand crochet origami crane. The Japanese origami, hand crocheted in the United States, and his name is Drug, which is the Russian name for friend. Origami is the Japanese art of folding paper. This is a nod to the unique and deep cultural traditions from which each of us come. While we're from different parts of the world, we are brought together in this bold endeavor, and we represent all of humanity. The folded paper design was also chosen to represent paper airplanes that we made when we were kids, before we were astronauts, when all we had was a dream. And we looked up at the sky and we wondered, what if? It's a symbol that every big accomplishment starts with a quiet dream, and that dreams do come true when you believe in yourself and you listen only to those who believe in you. Crew 10 believes in all of the dreamers. The flag and the number markings on the crane, there's a number 10 on each of its wings and a flag from each one of our countries on the tail. This is a nod to each of our shared experiences as professional pilots. These patches are arranged to look like an airplane. This is a source of deep pride for our crew, because what pilot doesn't like to talk about the fact that they're a pilot? But this also symbolizes our shared culture as astronauts. In the years of training together, we found we have far more in common than we do different. Our zero-G indicator was handmade by a small business owner in the United States. This represents all the hands which created our entire space program, and this rocket and this capsule that we're flying today. It also represents all of the artists and musicians who inspire people to imagine beyond what they can see. Spaceflight is perhaps the most complex endeavor of our time, but it was built one step at a time, by one person at a time. Finally, the origami crane is the international symbol for peace, hope, and healing. Crew 10 hopes to serve as a beacon of hope, a reminder of what humans can accomplish when we see the goodness in one another and we choose to work together toward a common goal. Today, we are united not through common enemy, but through shared optimism and a basic belief in the goodness of humanity. It is far easier to be enemies than it is to be friends. It's easier to break partnerships and relationships than it is to build them. Spaceflight is hard, and success depends on leaders of character who choose the harder right over the easier wrong, and who build programs, partnerships, and relationships. We explore for the benefit of all. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, then go together. Crew 10 chooses to go together in peace because you cannot be great without the greatness of others. Go NASA, go Roscosmos, go JAXA, and go Crew 10.
Dragon SpaceX, we really appreciate those words, Ann. Thanks for introducing.
From NASA astronaut and the Crew 10 commander, Ann McClain. And again, Crew 10 comprised of McClain along with NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers and JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi along with Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov are now safely in orbit following an approximately 9-minute ride after a liftoff at 4:03 p.m. Pacific, 7:03 p.m. Eastern from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The crew now has an approximately 28-hour journey ahead of them before they reach their destination, the International Space Station. Again, docking is targeted for tomorrow, March 15th at 8:30 p.m. Pacific, 11:30 p.m. Eastern to the forward-facing port of the station's Harmony module. Between now and then, Dragon will perform a series of burns to catch up with the space station, and that first burn will be taking place around 4:52 p.m. Pacific, 7:52 p.m. Eastern today.
And those were some great words about the zero-G indicator. Very incredible. Human spaceflight has come so far in the last 5 years with Dragon. In addition to flying people, SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft also enables researchers the opportunity to fly critical science to orbit. Now, so far, SpaceX and Dragon have carried over 1,000 research experiments to and from low Earth orbit, both to the International Space Station and on our free flyer missions. From DNA sequencing to 3D printing, studies enabled by Dragon and the space station test a variety of technologies, systems, and materials that will be needed for future long-duration exploration missions. Every mission yields critical research and learnings that help make life both on Earth and in space better. And flights like today's help us continue to lay the foundation for our future among the stars and continue our mission to make life multiplanetary. Now, we'll be signing off from SpaceX for now, so we're going to send it back to NASA. But before we go, we want to thank NASA for entrusting us with today's mission, and thank you all for being here with us today.
And with that, we're going to end our coverage from Hawthorne until we pick back up with our docking coverage in about 26 hours at 6:45 p.m. Pacific, 9:45 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, March 15th, for that targeted docking to the International Space Station at 8:30 p.m. Pacific, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So for now, thank you for joining us, and back over to you, Jessica and Daryl at the Kennedy Space Center to wrap up today's coverage.
And welcome back to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we just watched Crew 10 lift off from Launch Pad 39A. The crew is now en route to the International Space Station. I'm Daryl Nail. This is NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, who just watched one of her close friends and many friends, Crew 10, go up into space. And I'm wondering what that moment was like for you.
Well, I will tell you, it is a moment that you never forget. I am so excited right now sitting here thinking especially of Nicole and Kirill, because that first time experiencing prolonged weightlessness is something that they will never forget, and they will be talking about it for years and years for the rest of their lives, just like I recounted my stories here tonight. Those words were all so inspirational as well. I love how they unveiled their droog, their origami crane. It really hit on so many important themes tonight, talking about this Japanese art of folding paper, really combining all of the cultures of their crew, the name being a Russian name meaning friend, the origami crane for Japanese culture, all of the flags on the crane handmade by a small business in the U.S. It really highlights so many important elements that I know are so important to the crew and to all of us at NASA and all of the space agencies. ideally, really in summary, highlighting the representation of peace, of hope, and of healing, and that we are all truly stronger when we work together. So thank you, Anne. Thank you, Crew 10, for those incredible words. I think that there's a lesson there for all of us tonight. We are exploring for the benefit of all.
And Crew 10 believes in all dreamers. Thank you for highlighting the words of Commander Anne McLean as well. Crew 10 will become part of Expedition 73, briefly with 72, but then 73 when they arrive on the space station. NASA's Megan Cruz joins us now with Megan Everett, Deputy Chief Scientist of the International Space Station.
That's right, two Megans here. And I want to talk to you about, we obviously have another crew en route to the space station. How is the research that's done on the ISS different from other research at NASA?
Yes, well, first, thank you for having me. It's always my pleasure and very grateful to get to talk about science in space. And so, like you said, the space station is a national laboratory, and it allows us to look at things in microgravity for extended periods of time. We can put things on the outside of the space station where they experience extreme temperature changes and exposure to radiation in that extreme environment. And we also get these very unique perspectives of the Earth's surface. And so together, these things allow us to look at things like theories in quantum physics and answer questions that we can't answer with laboratories on Earth. We can look at human health and how that we can get astronauts to explore beyond low Earth orbit, as well as promote human health and answer questions related to diseases that we can't do on Earth. And it also allows us to expand commercialization in low Earth orbit by some of our in-space manufacturing. And in addition to this, it's just this really cool collaboration of international partners and scientific cooperation that we see on the space station.
Yeah, obviously a unique platform, and we do all that we can to really utilize it. So how does what we learn on the space station help us here on Earth? Can you give us some examples about that?
Yes, I love that question because one of NASA's big mission objectives is to figure out how we can do science in space to promote human health here on Earth. And one of the things we've been really successful with on ISS is looking at stem cell research and organelles and how those relate to specific diseases like cancer. And we also look at protein crystallization, and so we can grow very uniform crystals in space better than we can on Earth. And these crystals are really important in pharmaceutical drug development. So together we can look at disease progression and how we can better treat those diseases with new pharmaceuticals in space.
That's great. You did also mention human health and researching, what it could mean if we go farther and farther into the universe. How are we doing on that research? What are we learning?
So we've used ISS as a test bed for exploration beyond low Earth orbit for a long time, and we continue to use that, and we will all the way through end of station. And some of the specific things that we look at are how the human responds to long duration exposure to gravity. So we look at exercise countermeasures, at how we can maintain muscle and bone strength. We look at things like food systems for how we keep crew healthy for long periods of time. We have a very robust plant growth program, so we try to optimize crop output by changing things like soil and water exposure to those plants. And we need life support systems for our crew to live in space for long periods of time, so we have a lot of technical demonstrations on the space station looking at how to clean air and water and eliminate waste.
I can really see that you love talking about this. Thank you so much for sharing your passion and for sharing all that's being accomplished through NASA with the research at the ISS, but also other research that we do here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, back to Daryl and Jessica.
All right, thank you very much. And we're about to wrap up coverage here, so why don't we take one last social question from one lucky submitter. Scarlett Sermons asks, how do the astronauts feel looking at Earth from above? And what's that feeling like coming back?
Well, seeing the Earth from above is a very, very exceptional experience, and it's something that I think changes you forever. People have different things to say about this, but I think one message that we do all share is that it gives you this unique understanding for how beautiful our planet is, but mostly how unique and fragile it is. You see this beautiful gem below you and this tiny, tiny band, this thin, tenuous band of an atmosphere that's really supporting all life. And you realize that we need to take care of this planet, that it is one planet and we have to protect it. Secondly, one thing that I really was struck by was seeing how interconnected everything is. You know, you see all of the land masses with no boundaries, you see all the continuous oceans, and you realize how connected everything is, how we really are just one human. We are all here together, in it together as one. It's easy as humans to have these man-made imposed boundaries that we see delineated on the globe, but for us as astronauts, we realize that we are truly all in this together.
Well said, Jessica, and let's go ahead and end it on that. Right here on NASA Plus, you can follow us along with Crew 10's entire journey to the station by listening to real-time audio commentary of the mission. Just scan the QR code that you see right there at the bottom of your screen, or if you're watching us on your phone, you can just do a screen grab and then click on it later. Crew 10 is on course to arrive at the International Space Station around 11:30 p.m. on Saturday, believe that's going to be March 6th. For 15th, rather, March 15th. On-camera coverage of docking and arrival will resume about 2 hours before it docks on NASA Plus. And of course, that's always a big moment when the crowd, comes together on ISS.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have a lot of patience because you get to ISS, you dock, and then you have to go through these pressure checks to make sure everything's okay, and you're just waiting to get to the other side. And it's an incredibly special moment when you come through the hatch, you float for the first time for 2 of them, and you get big hugs from all of your friends and colleagues that are up there already.
And I was impressed by what Ann says, once they do this together, they are, and you've mentioned this a couple times, like forever brothers and sisters. When she sees those fellow astronauts in the hallway back in Houston, there's always a big smile that comes across her face.
Yeah, it's a bond that you have forever, spending that time in space together, having that shared experience. It's something as astronauts we want to share with our friends and family, how it feels, what it's like, and it's hard when they haven't experienced it. But with other astronauts and other cosmonauts, you have this instant special bond because you all have that shared experience together.
And when they return, they will come full circle with the rest of the astronauts, appropriately so on Pi Day. Just had to get that in there.
One more time, 314.
There you go. Well, I want to thank you, Jessica, for joining us. You were here for Crew 7. You did Crew 10, 2 launch attempts. It's a lot of work. We thank you for it. It's been very special. We hope that when you go on your mission and we are watching you and documenting your trip, that you'll throw us a little love somehow towards the camera, give us a wave, something. We will be rooting you on.
Absolutely, Daryl. It's been such a pleasure to be here sharing in the excitement for Crew 10 today. Go Crew 10.
Go Crew 10, go NASA, go SpaceX. And an important reminder about upcoming launches. NASA and SpaceX will return to the ISS in late April with CRS-32, a resupply mission launching from Kennedy, and then Crew 11 several months from now. Again, a huge thanks to all of us, for all of us, from all of us, to you, and to our guests for joining us today. But most importantly, thank you for watching. You can keep up with any Crew 10 updates to this mission using the online resources you see on your screen just there below. For everyone here at NASA and SpaceX, and for Jessica Meir, I'm Daryl Nail. Have a great rest of the day. We leave you now with a look back at highlights from suit up to liftoff. Crew 10 is getting suited up, ready to go. Time now for the traditional card game. Crew 10 walking down the hallway. And here they come, taking their first steps outside as they prepare for their journey to the International Space Station. And we are off. The crew on their way to Space Launch Pad 39A. Anne McLean, Nicole Ayers making their way into their Dragon spacecraft Endurance. And here come our mission specialists down the crew access arm, Takuya Onishi and Kirill Peskov.
There they are rotating back.
Dragon, SpaceX side hatches closed. Ignition and liftoff. Go SpaceX, go NASA Crew 10. Copy, what else? Vehicles pitching downrange.
Space station. 1.7 million pounds of thrust now propelling Falcon 9 and Crew 10. And we're continuing to get good call-outs on the first stage performance so far.